it's Elle, aka the Melanin Expat. So welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are pushing through, just trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel with everything that's going on in the world right now, from COVID to the war in Ukraine. I think it's honestly crazy, but I wanted to keep things light this week and just talk about something that was fun, and also something that I laughed about like a few days ago because I was like, oh my gosh, this actually is not true. But anyways, without further ado, this week I wanted to share some of the stereotypes that I had about Germans prior to moving to Germany. The first stereotype I had of Germans prior to moving to Germany definitely had to be about Germans being very mean, very negative, aggressive people. And I will tell you where this stereotype comes from. So basically, when I was like 13 or 14, I had to pick a second language in school, and the second language I chose was German, clearly. And yeah, I'm not even saying clearly, I don't know why I'm saying clearly because I still can't speak German, but anyways, I picked German as my second language. And I just remember my German teacher going around going 99999, and it was probably because we were talking English instead of German in the class. But also I remember when she would actually try and teach us like words or like how to form sentences, it was always in an aggressive tone in her German. So she would say it in German and it would always be like very hard hitting, very pointy, very negative. And that just for me built up this whole character of Germans being very negative, angry people that just scream nine. Obviously, I grew up, I realized that this was a stereotype, it's not true. Also, when I came to Germany, when I visited Germany prior to moving here, I realized that Germans are warm people, are nice people, are helpful, are respectful. So this is definitely a stereotype that is false. But I have to tell you that there are parts of it where I can see where it comes from, because when you compare Germans to like people in the USA or to Italians or to Spanish people, you can see the difference, because of course I think people in these countries are a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more outgoing, and a little bit more open. And I just think it is part of German culture to be a bit more apprehensive, a bit more reserved in your approach, and I think that's where it can kind of come from, just because when you have such a stark, look at me saying German, English, when you have such a strong contrast, it can, make you think that Germans are negative or a little bit colder. But I think it's just because it is the culture, they are a little bit more reserved, and that's what it is. Also, I do think the culture, how Germans as a whole behave, can also lead you to think that they are negative, that they are unwelcoming, that they're unfriendly. And again, this is a really big generalization because clearly I don't know every German in Germany, but I can give you examples of what I mean. So recently I went to a shop, I went to buy some paper, some like really nice writing paper, and it was like a card shop. And I walked in, I spoke German, I said, the right types of words to her. So I said Sie and all of that. And I basically asked her if she had paper, and she was like, straight faced, what type of paper? We have wrapping paper and we have paper. And she said it so like bitchy, and I was like, damn, like I'm a customer, I thought you meant to be nice, but she was very straight faced, very like blunt with me, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get my paper, gonna pay for it and go. So anyway, she pointed me to the paper, I grabbed the paper, went to the till, and then she was like, okay, did you get everything all right? And I was like thinking, what's she asking me that for? Like, she expecting a tip or something? And then she was like, the weather's really nice today, and she started having this whole conversation with me, and I was shocked because I was like, clearly she didn't like me. But then I realized like it's a German thing. She was just being very blunt. She was like, what type of paper do you want? And maybe she had a bit of resting bitch face as well, but like she was just being like to the point and very blunt with me. So there are times where I get into these situations where I think someone is like looking me wrong or saying something wrong, and then they end up being like completely the opposite, and we end up having a conversation, we end up having a friendship. And I feel like you experience that a lot in Germany. So I can see where this whole persona of Germans being a bit more closed-minded, a bit more, not closed-minded, but closed off, a bit more colder in comparison to other countries come from. But I think for the most part, Germans are very welcoming, are very nice people. So another stereotype I had of Germans had to be this whole picture of Germans wearing Tracht or Lederhosen and dirndls like all the time, drinking beer, eating sausages and pretzels. I Again, I think this comes from media, so I sound so stupid, so ignorant saying this right now, but I definitely thought like everyone walked around in these costumes all the time and just ate loads of beer, drank loads of beer, ate loads of pretzels and loads of sausages. And I started to learn that this was a Bavarian thing. So usually you do see people in track, so that's the lederhosen with the shorts and the shirt, like the checkered shirts and like the dresses where your boobs are out and all of that. You do see that a lot more in Bavaria, but it isn't a costume and people don't wear it every day. So it's like their Sunday best. So they will wear it to like church or to like a wedding or to the Oktoberfest. And also like what we saw in the media, so like what I saw in the media as like tracked and lederhosen was definitely a costume, because the women do not walk around with their boobs out. The women don't walk around in really short dirndls. That is quite tacky here. They actually wear really nice materials. It's like lace, it's super expensive. Sometimes they have diamonds and crystals and all of that on it. They're also long, like usually your dirndl is below your knees. If it's shorter, again, you're on the tacky side of things. And especially with the boobs as well. Yes, you do get people with their boobs out, me included, but for the most part they are a lot more on the conservative side, especially as you get older. So people that are generally, I don't know, 30 plus usually have something that's a little bit more conservative at the top. Also, if they're in a relationship or if they're married, they're not going to have their boobs out as well. So it depends, but it's definitely not as costumey here as I thought. And also when it comes to like beer and like sausages and pretzels, yes, I think Germans do love that and it is a big part of their culture, but equally you do have Germans that don't like beer, that don't drink beer, that don't eat meat, that are not fans of pretzels because they grew up with it. So it definitely isn't an everyday thing, but again, I think that is part of the culture. So I feel like this stereotype was kind of true, but it was like kind of me not understanding what parts of the country kind of incorporate that part of the culture, and just realizing that this is like a really big generalization and stereotype that's like kind of not true. So it's like one of these half and halves. So another stereotype I had about Germans or about Germany prior to moving here is that basically everything is orientated around their work life. So I feel like this came because my hours changed when I moved here. So in England, I don't know if other countries as well, but in England at least, your corporate work hours are 9 till 5 usually. And basically when I got my first contract out here, my working day was 9 till 6. And I told my partner, I was like, it's 9 till 6, what's going on? And he was like, oh, that's normal. And I was like, what? A whole hour, like another hour of the day that I'm working? It's crazy. And I'm earning like more or less the same money that I earn in England, but I work 1 hour less. So I was just confused. And also I heard about like people having like 45-minute lunch breaks. I had an hour lunch break, so it was fine. But I started to hear little things like that through the grapevine, and I was just like, oh, this does not sound good. So I was thinking like my whole life is going to be orientated around my job, and I'm just going to be like serious and working crazy hours and all of that. And I feel like this stereotype is completely false, because I feel that most companies that are German run or German owned or German founded really do respect their like personal time. So people take their annual leave, people take the maternity leave, the paternity leave, because there's so much rules and regulations to kind of support that and protect the rights of the workers and the employees. It's actually the international companies that you usually find where people are working extra hours that really don't have a good work-life balance. And again, I just think this is just something that I picked up on based on some certain changes to my work hours, which was completely false. And I'm here for it, to be honest. I feel like I have a really great work-life balance because I'm now working for a German company, and it's really, really great to see that I can still like focus on work and excel and have a career, but also have that kind of time off, have that balance in my personal life, and know that in the future, when I do want kids and things like that, there are loads of regulations and laws to protect me and to support me in doing that as well. Stereotype I had about Germans, and this one wasn't actually prior to moving, but this one was kind of early on by like my experiences socializing with Germans, socializing with my partner, has to be their time management. So Germans love being punctual, and this one is completely true. They take their timings very seriously. You need to be on time for everything. And when I say on time, it's better to arrive like 5-10 minutes early as opposed to like 3 minutes late, like really and truly. So this stereotype is true. Germans are very punctual. And I learned this the hard way, because in the beginning, when I first moved here, I was showing up to appointments completely late, like 7 minutes late, 13 minutes late. And to me, it's not a big deal. In the UK, if I got to an appointment a few minutes late, no one would do anything. It's not that big of a deal, especially if it's like traffic or the bus wasn't running or there was something like that. But in Germany, they expect no matter what's going on for you to be there on time. And if you're not going to be there on time, call ahead to see if it's even worth you going to the appointment. So I've been in cases where I've run late and I've come to the reception. I've said, you know, I'm here for my appointment that's at, I don't know, 9 a.m. and I've got there like 9:13, and they've looked at me like, are you okay? And I've ended up waiting like over an hour for my appointment because they've just moved on with the next person. So that was something I had to get my head around. Equally at work as well, always getting to my meetings like a couple minutes beforehand and just being there. Equally with things that I was doing with my partner, that was something I was definitely not used to. So at least for me, my family at home, if we're planning stuff, like if we want to go out for dinner or we're just going around to each other's houses or something, we're very like lax with the timing. And I also think it comes from African timing, so that probably makes it even worse. But like, we're very lax with timing. If someone says, oh yeah, like let's do something at 2, if I get there at 2, it's fine. If I get there at 2:15, it's also fine. If I get there at 3, no one's going to say anything. It's not a big deal because it's family, it's chill. But when I started like socializing more with my partner, with his friends, with his family, I started to realize the importance of time. If they say 1 p.m, you need to be there for 1 p.m. And again, it's better to even be there 10 minutes beforehand just to make sure everything is smooth. So like whenever we're doing something, whenever we're planning something, I always plan to get somewhere like a half an hour beforehand, because it never ends up being the case that I get there half an hour beforehand, because there's usually delays, there's usually something going wrong, I've usually forgot something, I have to run and go grab something, the dog's doing something. So there's always something that will make me a little bit more delayed, but at least I have that 30 minutes head start. So yeah, this stereotype is very much true to the T. Okay, so another stereotype that I had about Germans prior to moving to Germany was that Germans love their rules, they love their regulations, and they have 1,000,001 insurances for everything just in case. And this stereotype is 100% true. So I actually read up on this stereotype. So when I was like, I don't know, Googling about living in Germany and culture shock and all of that kind of stuff, I read about these rules and how people really respect their rules here. And if there's a queue, you need to queue. And if they do something, you need to do it properly as well. So that's something that is 100% true, but also it's a good stereotype. And it's something I actually really, really like about living in Germany. So an example of this like rule following, this orderliness that there is in Germany, has to be like, for instance, with the public transport. So before you even get on public transport here, you always wait to the side of the doors, and that is to allow the people that want to get off first. And then from there, once everyone is off, you get on. And I absolutely love this. I think it's so nice, because if you're getting off of something, it's so painful and annoying to have to push past people and get your way out, especially if you've got a dog or you've got bags or you've got things going on. And equally, it's a bit unfair if you want to get onto a public transport and everyone's pushing their way on to get a seat, that you're like maybe the person in the back, or you don't want to push as well, so you wait and then you're like left with no seat. So I really like the orderliness to it. I feel like it's an unspoken rule that pretty much everyone follows, and again, I feel like this stereotype is very much true, but it's a good stereotype, so you can't even be mad at it. So the last stereotype I would say I had about Germans prior to moving here has to be the brutally honest opinions and just the direct approach that they have. So I feel like this one comes from Germans being mean and cold and all of that, but I think that this stereotype unfortunately is very much true, and I see that in my partner almost every day. So we're working on it, it's a work in process, but from my interactions with my partner, with a lot of Germans here in Germany, they are very brutally honest, and they don't do it to be mean, they don't do it to be annoying or negative, but they don't butter or sugarcoat things up the same way we do in the UK, or similarly I can assume to the US. I've been in cases, for instance, at work where I'm like in a meeting, a lot of German colleagues, and we're working with German managers, and my colleagues will give like these managers feedback on like a project or on a certain thing that's going on. And as opposed to being like, you know, you could improve on X, Y, and Z, but you've done X, Y, and Z great. They're just like, no, this is wrong. So we don't like this. You need to scrap this. This isn't working. Have you got data to show this? And I'm like, damn, you're going in. Like, you're not even talking about the nice points. There's no point. You know, you want to focus on the negative and be productive and efficient and move forward. And I was not used to that approach. I used to sit in these meetings and be so uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, I'm on your side, but I don't like the way you're talking to them. It's a thing, it's normal here. You have to have a little bit of thick skin, whether you're communicating with Germans, working with Germans. I think you do have to have a bit of thick skin for it. I am growing my skin, it's in progress, but definitely I feel like Germans are very blunt. In the UK, if you didn't like something, if you didn't like a project or a specific work or something that was going on, we would do that sandwich method where we'd be like, you know what, you've done a really amazing job. Thank you so much for helping. Like, I could see you put a lot of effort in, you know, I like this part, I like that part, but you've missed the mark on X, Y, and Z. Maybe we can go in and start working on this. If you have any questions, maybe I can come and help you. You know, we try and like make it very fluffy and sugary so you don't really bring the person down. And I feel like in Germany, they're just very like, to the point, say what's wrong and let's move forward. And it can be nice because there's no like need to fluff things up. You get your work done a lot quicker, you move on projects a lot quicker. So I can kind of see the like benefits to it, but also, yeah, it's not my approach. I'm very fluffy, I have to say. I do like that sandwich method. So it's a true stereotype, but I wouldn't say it's such a negative one. It's just a cultural difference, I would say. Okay, so those were just some of the stereotypes that I had about Germans prior to moving to Germany. I know a lot of them were false, so please don't hold me on them, don't take me on them. I was young, I was naive, I didn't know better. But yes, those were just some of the stereotypes that I had on Germans. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this week's video, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.